This month, World Wildlife Fund revealed in their latest Living Planet Report 2022 that over 69% of global biodiversity has been on a continuous decline since 1970, with the biggest reductions being seen to happen in what we know to be the world's most biodiverse continents. The report shows a 94% biodiversity reduction in South America, 66% reduction in Africa, 55% reduction in Asia Pacific, 20% in North America, and 18% biodiversity loss in Europe and Central Asia. Next week, global leaders gather in Egypt for COP27. Now, in a world where we are often reading about more of the negatives than the positives when it comes to the planet, how can we mobilize more funds? How can we create more awareness? How can we basically step up support for the wilder things on Earth that need our voices the most? How can we raise more funds for conservation? And how do we ensure that these funds are spent for the right reasons to support and help conservation efforts, especially locally? This and more when we return. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, a show that is wild, very wild. We try to put out a new episode every Sunday with discussions ranging around how to make the natural world a better place, creating awesome images, telling stories with words, wildlife films and photography, with occasional musings on sound and tech. I do share a lot of my own personal experiences, and from time to time, I'll have one or two guests on the podcast to share some insightful discussions. If you are fascinated about the natural world, especially natural history films and photography, environmental conservation, and African travel at large, this podcast will have you in a spin. So thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy your time here. All right, guys, welcome back to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, where we talk about the earth, images, words, wildlife films and photography, and occasionally music. Today's guest, I'm very confident, has most, if not all, the questions that we are looking for. And without further ado, I will introduce him. Hangi Bashir holds a master's degree in journalism and communication from Makerere University. He also has a master's in development studies from Mbarara University. He's also a member of the UK Chartered Institute of Public Relations. And he wears quite a number of hats, but we have him particularly on today's episode under one of the many hats he wears, which is the communications manager of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. And it's only right that we get a quick brief from him about what the Wildlife Authority is all about. So yes, welcome to the podcast, Hangi.
Thank you so much, Benia.
Yeah, and congratulations to UWA, by the way, for your 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was an important milestone, of course, in the life of the institution, given where we've come from and where we are. We are really grateful to government, and we thank God that we celebrated 25 years when it's us, myself, and the team that are at the helm of the institution.
Beautiful. Now let's just imagine that those tuned in do not know much about UWA. Just give us a quick brief about Uganda Wildlife Authority.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Uganda Wildlife Authority was established in 1996 out of a statute. By that time, we didn't have a parliament, we had a statute. And in 2000, we got an act. And the main role of UWA is to conserve and protect Uganda's wildlife resources. The institution manages 10 national parks and 12 wildlife reserves. We manage some community management areas and sanctuaries. The main reason why UWA exists is to conserve and protect Uganda's wildlife resources, working closely or in collaboration with the communities that are adjacent to these protected areas. So that is our main job. However, of course, in the execution of this mandate, there are quite a number of other things that we do, law enforcement, to ensure that the wildlife law is followed, people don't kill animals. We do ecological research and monitoring. We do boundary management. We do community conservation. We do marketing. We marketing protected areas as tourism destinations. We do public relations and corporate affairs. Quite a number of other roles have come to support the core function of the institution, which is to conserve the country's natural resources.
Beautiful. That's quite a mouthful. I know you had to condense so many things.
Absolutely.
In a very short while. Now, Bashir, I just wanted to quickly pick your mind on there's this whole looming debate about the need to conserve the planet, and it seems like it's taken quite center stage in the recent decades. Is there something that as you scientists that you probably know as maybe particular challenges that maybe just inspiring this whole discourse around why we need to protect, why we need to save the environment and the planet as a whole?
Let me be clear on this. Saving the planet, protecting the environment is a matter of our survival. We are not doing it for any other person. We are not doing it for any business. We are doing it for our survival. So it is our desire to survive that is motivating this whole debate about saving the environment, saving the world, saving the earth, saving the entire biodiversity. Okay? So without it, we cannot survive. There is no much discussion over this. It's a matter of human survival that we are doing that. We are doing it for our own survival. Yeah.
That's a very nice way to put it. That's very simple. If we know that our survival is tied to that, then
because you see, when you go into the detailed science of the benefits of, for example, trees, the benefits of the wildlife, the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, the water bodies, now you end up confusing people. The simple way to put it is that we want to save the environment, we want to save the earth so that we can survive, so that our children can survive, so that the future generations can survive. Therefore, it is a matter of human survival that is motivating a debate to save the environment, to save the earth, to save the world from,
Okay, so would I be right to say that instead of looking at nature as something else, it makes more sense for us to look at ourselves as part of nature, as another species that is part of nature.
I tend to. I've seen quite a number of literature. Some scientists somehow, of course, no one comes out clearly to make a distinction, but somehow argue that human beings should consider themselves as part of nature. In my view, we are. We should not consider. You see, it is nature that makes us survive. So we are part and parcel of it. Now, what makes us different from it are our actions. Okay? Our actions have bigger implications on nature itself. So it is what we do that differentiates us from nature. You imagine if nature wasn't there, what would befall the human race?
It would be terrible.
It would be terrible.
Yeah.
So, and in most cases, when I see some very important people in conference halls, air-conditioned, talking about saving nature over a cup of tea, some of them, when they are sipping coffee, and the stereotype jokes that they make over nature, and it makes me want to bleed. We have looked at nature as something that is instinctively different and far from us. Yet we are part of it. We are surviving in it. We are surviving because of it. It is nature that we humans do survive. So sometimes it's hurting when you see people in conference rooms and big conventions, big meetings, making resolutions that are never implemented.
Yeah. That's a very good takeaway. I think for anyone listening, if there's anything that you would quickly take away, that is one thing that really hits home. Now, Bashir, I just wanted to also find out, as Uganda Wildlife Authority, I know the work you do is quite humongous. But is there a way a common man or a normal human being, normal human being sounds funny. Let me say someone who is not like in mainstream or hardcore conservation, is there where they could support the work that you do? I know for people that are advancing the sustainability discourse, they often say things like reduce single-use plastics, or maybe reduce the number of your consumption of energy. So as Uganda Wildlife Authority in general, how would a layman support the kind of work that you're doing to protect Uganda's wildlife?
Thank you very much. That's a good one. First of all, there's one thing we want people to know, people who are listening to us, especially those ones in my country, in Uganda. The work we do as Uganda Wildlife Authority is not our work. The wildlife that we are protecting, the wildlife that we are conserving, does not belong to an institution called UWA. It belongs to all Ugandans and the people of the world. What does this mean? Someone in Germany should not think that is Uganda's wildlife. No. Because there is that ecological role that it plays. This ecological role, the benefits, the ecological benefits of conserving wildlife knows no boundaries. That's why you see when we're talking about climate change, if something is happening in Canada, it has an impact on us. So when we are conserving for the global community as well. Now, there is a lot that partners can do with us. For example, up to now, the issue, you alluded to the issue of single-use plastics, banning them.
Yes.
But why do we produce them in the first place?
Yeah.
Before we talk about banning single-use plastics, can we have a honest and sincere engagement, a narrative, a discussion over the production of plastics? Because this is now, we are being sincere. This is why I say that sometimes when you're talking about issues of saving the earth, we have to discuss beyond the boardroom discussions that big people engage in.
Yeah.
For us, we are discussing from a realistic point of view. Now, there's a lot that people can help us with. For example, in issues of research, we still need to do a lot of research, ecological research, because we have an issue lately, a challenge of what we call invasive species. They are eating up some parts of our parks. Of course, we are using an uprooting system, method of uprooting. We are removing them mechanically. But we think we can do more research in this area and see how best can we fight invasive species.
Yeah.
Where you find invasive species, you don't find their animals. And someone can think that animals died, they are no longer there.
Yeah, I know. I see people saying that there are no animals in a particular park.
But the issue is that the animals are there, but the animals don't eat these species, these plants. So they go to where they can get something to eat. So when you come and you see only the invasives and you don't see the animals and you say, it's like the animals are no longer there. People poached the animals, or they died, or they no longer produce, which is not true. So, but also the issue for us, the bigger concern is not about people saying that the animals are not seen. The bigger concern is about these invasives occupying huge acreage of land. And eventually you'll find that like 50% of the entire protected area is full of invasives. So this is something where we need more science, where we need more discovery in terms of fighting it. How do we ensure that it doesn't happen in other places? Okay, so that is one area. The other area is that due to climate change, we experience some drought seasons, and during this period, you find that animals don't have water inside the protected areas, and as UWA would not have adequate capacity to sink water dams for the animals to drink, and because there's no water, now these animals go outside the protected areas. And when they go outside the protected areas, the next is human-wildlife conflict.
Yeah.
Communities want to chase them, the animals don't understand. So there's a fight. And sometimes you hear that an animal has injured a community member or an animal has killed a community member because of that. The other issue is about food also. Again, going back to climate change.
Yeah.
Food is getting little inside the protected areas, and animals want to go out to look for food. So they eat people's goats, they eat people's cows, they kill people's livestock. And then we have issues with communities.
Yeah.
Now, this affects our relationship with the communities. So, but largely, if we can address the issue of invasives and see how we can address the issue of water shortages, which is largely an effect of climate change, I think it would be good to go.
Okay, that's very nice. Now, I'd like us to. I have this question in my head around the connection between conservation, biodiversity conservation, and climate change. We are surely living in a, if I could call it, a dual crisis of biodiversity loss and climate change that is basically driven by our unsustainable use of the planet's resources. I do see quite a number of activists, including our own Vanessa Nakate from Uganda,
yes,
really challenging global leaders around whether they are really doing enough. But I also read that there are some nature-based solutions that actually people are tabling as better, or rather a more effective approach to fight climate change. Help me and also the viewers tuned in, or rather listeners tuned in, to understand the linkage between biodiversity conservation and climate change, and if possible, help us localize it to an African and, if possible, a Ugandan situation.
Thank you. That's a good one. When you were asking, you alluded to our own Nakate, who is challenging global leaders. And I want to say this. I'm not apologetic when I say this. Global leaders have been the biggest contributors to biodiversity loss.
That's a very strong statement to say.
Yes, the global leaders. Why? They are in the positions of decision making, but they have not acted. They have made decisions, but they have not acted.
Yeah.
Because I want us to differentiate between making a decision,
talking,
and acting. Between talking and walking the talk.
Yes.
If we are talking about cutting emissions, are we genuinely doing so? Now, it is, now I'm coming to the relationship.
Yeah.
It is our selfishness as human beings that we have this whole debate about biodiversity loss and climate change. We are having climate change because of human activity. We are talking about industrialization. You don't want to be great countries. And when you're talking about great countries, they are not going to talk about people who are selling mobile money. They are talking about industries, manufacturing, commercial agriculture. You get me? And these have a bigger impact. Let me start with agri, for example. It's a good thing. We want food. We are human beings. We need to eat to survive.
Definitely.
Because honestly, we eat food to survive, not for any other thing. Now, as we go commercial agric, which is a very good thing, it demands for more land. We need to do more land. Rather, we need more land for cultivation. Where we don't have land, we need to apply manures and others. And all these, have an impact. Yeah. And as we demand for more land for commercial production, we are encroaching on protected areas. And as you encroach, by the way, any activity that you do has an impact on biodiversity loss. Okay? Now, look at industrialization. Do I need even to say something about it?
Not really.
Here, let me come here to Uganda.
Yeah.
We had this talk about the forest called Bugoma. People talk about Bugoma forest, or you are cutting the forest, and now you are in trouble. What is that? Biodiversity loss. You said I should localize it, and I'm giving an example of Bugoma, the forest that was being cut. And since these people were cutting this forest down, what has happened in the Bunyoro sub-region? Haven't you had a lot of human-chimpanzee conflicts?
Definitely. Yeah.
Because human beings encroached on the habitat of the chimpanzees.
And they now have to look for where to go.
And the chimpanzees are not looking for where to go, since we are the ones who have found them where they are, so we have to live with them.
Yeah.
And the relationship cannot be rosy. It can't be rosy. So, in so doing, we are accelerating human wildlife conflict, but also we are accelerating climate change. That's why I find it so ironical. If up to now we are not talking about clean energy, we are talking about clean energy on paper. Apart from a few countries that have really demonstrated that they want to move, and there are demonstrable actions that they are moving towards clean energy. Fossil fuel. Some countries are still doing exploration. They want to go into production. I don't want to go there. But and if you are talking about clean energy, at the same time we are talking about fossil fuel. We still have countries that are talking about coal production. Yes.
This day and age.
In this age, yes, in this day and age, we still have countries that are talking about coal production. There's a whole continent. When you go there and talk about coal, people will not understand you. You get me? So, our selfishness as human beings have contributed a lot to biodiversity loss. Now I'm giving the relationship. And because of biodiversity loss, we have climate change. Now, this is recognizable globally. However, when you go at the global scene, now it comes down again to country action plans. We did talk about the COP.
Yes.
That is coming. You will hear people talking about country action plans. And which countries are we talking about? Most likely the G20.
The big ones.
You get me? Those are the ones who will come up with action plans. What about others? Because others will tell you that, wait a second, you guys, you industrialized, you've reached where you are. You've been drilling oil for a long time. For us, we're just coming up. You want us to remain the way we are? You want us to stop because of your own mistakes? You get me?
Yeah.
And you will hear even some of the big countries saying that, well, we can now, there's this whole new trending thing called the carbon credit. Even we have a company that wants to engage us in carbon credit in some of our protected areas. Now, people will tell you that, you see, we'll come and buy, you plant trees as we industrialize. We will come and pay you and compensate you for that. And these countries are saying, wait a second, why don't we also industrialize? Why do you want us to rely on you? So there is this whole debate that I don't see people, our leaders, the global leaders we're talking about, coming to an understanding on this. Because countries have different interests, countries have different challenges, they are at different levels of development, and they want to advance their development agendas. So that is the issue.
Wow. Thanks for really quite comprehensively helping us understand the linkage. And I guess that really underscores the importance of the work that you do in
Absolutely. We are giving it our best.
Yeah.
If you go to any of our protected areas, you will appreciate what I'm talking about. Just sitting, I don't know whether you've ever heard of something called forest bathing. Just the way you hear of sunbathing.
Oh.
You go to India and do forest bathing. Yes.
Wow.
You'll feel nature at its best. You will say, oh God, why are we doing this to your creation?
I know.
Why are we doing this to your creation? And you know what is interesting is that taking care of the universe, taking care of nature, we as human beings are not doing it because I did say that it's for our own survival, but we are doing it also on behalf of God.
Yeah.
For those who read different religious books, but I know many of them, apart from those ones who are talking about evolution and whatever, but many of those ones who believe in religion and existence of God, they know that God created all these things first and put them there.
That is a constant.
Okay? And then mankind. Now, it meant that God had given man dominion over all the other creations. And therefore, taking care, ensuring that we don't have biodiversity loss. That is by conserving nature.
Yeah.
You are doing what God asked you to do, and God will reward you for that. Some people think that, to get rewards from God, it is just about going to the mosques and the churches and the cathedrals yes. No. Beyond that, there are other roles you are supposed to play, and once you play them, you play these roles, God will reward you. And this includes conservation.
Nice. That's a very good message.
Yeah.
Now, just moving on, I want us to also just quickly touch on funding for conservation. There's an article I read last year that revealed that majority of annual charitable dollars are made towards other things that are not nature-based. I think they say 27% was towards religion, 14% to education, about 13% to human services, and only about 2% or even less went towards nature efforts. So my three-part question is, A, are the funds that are out there enough to meet the pressing challenge that conservation organizations are working on every day to fix? Then B, how do we get to mobilize more money for the natural world? And then C, which is even actually, I guess, quite important, is how do we get the money into the hands of the people who are best placed to deliver the much needed help for the natural world or the planet?
That is a good one. Let me start with A. The funding towards conservation is too meager. Why? It is interesting how the human race really has lost interest in its continuum. If you don't conserve, you will live, yes, maybe for 60, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, and you die. What about your children? What about your grandchildren? I don't want to be controversial, but this money that goes to religion should come into conservation, because conservation is God's work. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody will challenge me on this when I say when we are conserving, we are doing the work of God. And therefore we are paying back to God. We are giving back to God. So the rewards you get from the mosque and the churches where we send the money, we can also get the same rewards, even more rewards, by conserving nature. Why? Because the money you get it from church or the mosque, and maybe the people you support, sometimes they even put this money in things that are not godly. You imagine a situation where you have forests, you have green cover, you have that canopy all over, and people are in harmony. We are reversing the climate change by working towards recovery of the biodiversity loss that has already happened. You can imagine. Don't you think God will be more happier with us than where we are putting these resources?
It would even be easier to pray. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Able to pray.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, we are in harmony. When you live in harmony with wildlife, So that I know that is controversial, but that's my thought. So the money that comes towards conservation is too meager. Yeah. It's too little. It can't do even a tenth of the conservation work that we are doing globally, not only in Uganda. When you come to Uganda, it's terrible. Now, because God created human beings also, He allowed us to live the way we want. And some human beings think that they can live better lives by destroying nature, by poaching. You get me? Getting involved in illegal wildlife trade. They trade in trees of value and wildlife parts and specimens. Now, those ones are working towards biodiversity loss. Now, to counter these people, there is a lot that we have to do. Yeah. We need to invest in intelligence. We need to invest in investigations. We need to seriously invest in law enforcement activities so that we are able to arrest these guys and also ensure that they face the law. Most importantly, we need to invest in creation of awareness and education. Yeah. Because some people don't know what it means to them. Probably someone didn't know that by protecting wildlife, by conserving, it is in our own interest. It is for our own survival. You might find that people who didn't know that, they have just learned of it today. Yeah. So it's possible. And for us, we'll always be there to create this awareness. But we want a global campaign. You get me?
Yeah.
So that the information is there. It is, you pump people with information all the time, using all channels available, so that people appreciate that. Wait a second, I have a role to play. Not a certain authority responsible for wildlife conservation in Uganda or Kenya or UK or where. No, people should know that they have a role at individual level.
Yeah.
Now that's awareness. It needs resources. And then I did mention research, more research.
Yeah.
For example, there are animal species that are known to be on a decline. For example, lions. Can we invest in breeding, for example? Leopards. So more research is needed. And also in terms of being able to contain illegal activities, we need to invest in technologies such as use of drones, such as use of stealth cameras that we have started this in Uganda. Nice. We have stealth cameras in some of the parks. If, for example, you move in Queen Elizabeth National Park at night, we'll get your images and probably be able to look for you.
Yeah.
You get me? We have technologies, for example, Earth Ranger. It's very good. You're able to detect illegal activities. But in Uganda, of course, we have it in 2 parks now. But we want to have them in all the parks.
Yeah.
You get me? Now, and also, you need to maintain the personnel on the ground. People who are doing patrols on a daily basis, day and night. The ones I call the conservation heroes. To me, the conservation heroes are not the scientists in the labs. People who are writing papers in scientific journals. No. The conservation heroes are in the parks there, in the protected areas. Those are the conservation heroes. You get me? I'm not saying these people who are writing very nice papers are not making a contribution. Their contribution is enormous. But the real conservation heroes are down there.
At the forefront.
Yeah, they are not speaking to you, Benia.
Yeah.
They are not. So you need to go through so many channels to talk to that conservation hero. Unlike me, So we need to invest in in staff to ensure that these protected areas have adequate staff to do their work. You get me? Yeah. We need to invest in community conservation. Specific interventions in the communities that relieves community pressure on the protected areas.
Yeah.
You get me? So we need lots of resources to do this work. Now, the other issue is that the mobilization.
Yeah.
Mobilization is important. But you see, one thing I've noticed is that you, Jonathan, to give me your $1 or your 3,800 Uganda shillings, it depends on your interest in what I'm doing.
Definitely.
If you're not interested in conservation, you'll not give me that money. But if you are interested in a party and I tell you I have a party, please contribute. You will not give me 3,000. You give me 100,000 or even $1 million shillings.
Give you $1 billion, yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
So we need to, as we talk of mobilization, we need to interest people. And this goes back to the issue of awareness and education. Yeah. Once we have a global awareness and education about the role of conservation to our own survival, why we need to conserve, so that we restore the negative effects of climate change, so that we restore the biodiversity loss that we have already experienced, and then we live good and healthy lives, and then our children have a brighter future, a future where they will live and thank us for our actions, as opposed to condemning us for our inaction. People will be able to bring resources. Currently, I can tell you this, there are families, individual families that are supporting conservation work. Someone says, I want to support work that has to do with conserving an elephant. And someone says, I have my $20,000. We have them. Yeah. Those are individuals. And then there are families. A family says, I have we have $50,000, we mobilized it. We want this money to go towards conserving a giraffe. You get me? Now, those are people who are already converted. We need many.
I wish we had more.
Yes. Yeah. If for example, you can have 1 million people saying that I'm giving $20,000 towards conserving lions. What would be the status of lion conservation?
Change a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yes, we need to mobilize, but also we need to drum support with the global leaders and national leaders. Because you see, I can tell you this, and it cuts across the board. Let me give you an example of journalists. These journalists play a very important role. They are the ears and the eyes of society. And they pass on the information to the society, information that probably society wouldn't have known. The journalists are there. They put their lives on the line to get information. But if you invite journalists and you say, we have a road trip to CP Falls, or to Kaguru Hill, all these attractions in Uganda, or to Rwenzori, we are going to go and make a stopover in Chenjojo and see this, and then go to Fort Potro, and see the Fort Lugard monument, and then you will get, and you say, I want 20, and in 3 hours you get 200 people interested.
The interest is...
Yes. But if you tell them that, you see, you want to go and see the effects of deforestation, the interest will be very minimal. Because it's something that's not so attractive to them. And that's why you see here locally, me here at UWA, we are beginning what we call Conservation Media Awards. These awards are to reward excellence in conservation reporting. We want to interest journalists to write. Of course, we are still struggling with the support, but these Conservation Media Awards are going to be a game changer in terms of creating interest from the journalists. Now, this interest should go everywhere. And then the leaders, how much, for example, do governments allocate to conservation? Most of the conservation bodies are struggling, are limping. Some are crawling, because they do not have adequate resources. So we need to see the governments coming in to allocate substantial resources towards conservation of nature. It's very important. The other aspect of how do we get the money in the hands of the people? Yes. I think the biggest people who suffer effects of conservation are communities adjusting it to protected areas.
I'll agree.
Those, they suffer the immediate effects and the adverse effects. Let me give you this scenario. And when I talk about effects, someone will talk about things like they say, you see, the animals go out of the parks and destroy their crops. Yes, those are effects. But also, there are ones who get lured to enter the parks, and there are ones who get arrested, sent and jailed. You can imagine this gentleman who was given life imprisonment. He's left behind a family. Forever, it's over. He will never go back to his family for the rest of his life. You get me? So, in addition to suffering, for example, effects of animal attacks, they are also having challenges with some of their youth getting lured into illegal wildlife activities, and they get arrested. Some of them actually die in the parks. Animals kill them. You get me? So they suffer immediate impacts and adverse effects. And therefore, the best way to have the money or the proceeds from conservation work go to the communities is to deal with them directly. I tell you this from my experience. You come to Uganda. The Wildlife Act 2019 provides for revenue sharing.
I wanted to come through that actually.
Okay. So you come to that?
No, you've hit it on it.
Fine.
That was tickling in my head.
The Wildlife Act of 2019 provides for revenue sharing. And this money is supposed to be sent to the districts. Okay? And this money is supposed to go to the parishes that touch on the boundary of the park. All the parishes that touch on the boundary of the park are supposed to benefit from the revenue share money. But when it goes to the district, 5% is chopped off as monitoring fee. It remains at the district. Now that's for district officials to make follow-up. And then from the district, the money goes to the sub-county. And then from the sub-county, the money goes to the parishes.
Yeah.
And districts also have their own agenda. They will have their own plans. You'll find that one time we're having a meeting in the Rubirizi district, and the committee members asked the chairman that, look, I want you to tell us, do you have a health department at the district? The chairman said yes. They asked, do you have an education department? The chairman, oh yes, we have an education department at the district. Except we have a district education officer, we have a DHO. DHO is a district health officer. Now, they asked him, what do they do at UC? We build schools, we build health facilities. And then they went ahead and asked, why do you use our revenue share for those things that we were supposed to be doing anyway?
Yeah, you are by law you're required.
Yes.
That's your mandate.
Yes. Why this money is ours? You are putting it in health facilities and building classroom blocks. That's your work. With or without this money, you are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It was not a good scene, I can tell you.
I can imagine.
Now, that's the point. When the money goes to the districts, the district looks at a bigger picture. They say this area needs a health facility. And maybe they put up a health facility. But you find that the communities have not failed because their needs are different. Some of their needs are largely to do with livelihood improvement.
Yeah.
They want to do projects, maybe piggery or goat rearing, or they want to do circles, put the money in a circle, and people come and borrow money and something like that. Yeah. Now, when they don't get this, they don't feel the impact because they believe that the government is supposed to build schools for them anyway, with or without revenue share. This government, these local governments are supposed to make roads for them.
I feel their sentiment.
You get me?
Yeah.
With or without revenue share. And when you say that you use their revenue share to make a road, so they ask you, what about the funds that you had earmarked for the roads?
True.
To them, revenue share should be a benefit over and above the benefits they are getting, the services they are getting from the local governments, but not to be part of the services from local governments. We have since changed that. Now the money is going is effective this financial year. Revenue share money goes as conditional grants.
No, help me understand that.
A conditional grant is that you send money, you give a grant. Remember, this is not a loan, so it's a grant. But now it's conditional.
Yeah.
In a sense that it goes to specific projects identified by communities.
Oh,
you get me? So that someone doesn't sit at the district and they say, these people, the place is dry, so they need a borehole. And then you go and you sink a borehole there. You get me? Or they want a gravity flow scheme. So we decided that this money should now be a conditional grant. Now the communities come up with their projects. The projects are appraised and assessed and evaluated and approved. So monies go direct for those particular projects.
I feel like that's more effective.
It's more effective, but again, it would have been actually more effective if this money was going directly to the communities, not through these other structures.
Yeah.
You get me? So, because there's an element of procurement, the communities don't procure. That's the challenge you're having. Yeah. Procurement is done at sub-county.
And build capacity.
Yes, and once you go through procurement, if you plan to buy a goat at 200, you can be sure through procurement you can't get it because it increases by 18% immediately VAT.
With every step.
Yes, there's a salary component element that comes in. Yeah. Yet in the communities, they know so and so has nice, good goats. They go to this person, he sells them the goats. Yeah. But it's not the case. But at least this is better than the situation before.
Yeah, I really like that it's a work in progress, that you're really flexible and you're trying to really help the community feel the impact.
But bottom line is that if the communities do not feel the benefits, conservations are doing zero.
I agree.
You get me? You cannot conserve without communities. That is completely impossible. Even if you have, we are using AK-47s. Those are the rifles that the government gave. Even if you have a million of them, you can't conserve without communities. And once we have communities on our side, we will not need these guns. They will be just for protecting communities now against problem animals.
Yes.
You get me?
Yes.
So what we need is to have community buy-in. But for community buy-in to happen, the communities must feel, not only hear, but feel the benefits of conservation. And that's the direction we are taking as Uganda Wildlife Authority. Yeah.
That's commendable. Now, you did hint on the gentleman that got a life, is it a life sentence?
Yes.
For, was it rhino trafficking?
It was, he was arrested with an ivory, 2 pieces of ivory. They were weighing around 9.55 kilograms.
Okay, so I just wanted to find out how important is the legal regime and all these environmental laws to the work you do. How is it of significant help to the government authority that is in charge of wildlife conservation, that you have stringent environmental laws and quite a tight legal regime to help support the work you do?
If there is anything that government has done that everyone should commend them for, is to put in place enabling laws to protect the environment, to protect the wildlife.
Yeah.
And they have gone beyond that and even given the required instruments. In political science, we call them instruments of coercion. We hear of environmental police, tourism police, you've heard of that, and others. Now, when it came to us as UWA, they created us as a paramilitary institution. So with or without the others, we handle on our own. But in terms of ensuring that there is also justice, government went ahead and established a utilities standards and wildlife court.
Nice.
And this is where I've taken these offenders. Now, for this particular gentleman, he was a repeat offender in the same court. In 2017, in April 2017, this gentleman was arrested with 4 pieces of ivory weighing around 20 kilograms. That was under the old law, which was not tough. And the guy was sentenced to jail for 18 months.
Wow.
He served.
And he was released.
Okay? 4 years later, 3 years later, again he's arrested, taken to the same court. And you know what? It turns out that Namuongo is his area of operation, because even in 2017, that's where he was arrested from. 2022, in the same place. You get me? He was a repeat offender, and clearly we needed to have him outside society so that he is kept away. But now, because of this realization and the government put in place these enabling laws, for example, the amendment of the Wildlife Act of 2000, because it had weaker law, it had weaker penalties, so you'd arrest someone with a piece of ivory, and the person pays a fine of 1 million or 2, and the person goes.
And they go back to...
Yes, but now ivory is terrible now. It's life imprisonment. 20 billion Uganda shillings. This is a lot of money. By any measure, this is a lot of money. 20 billion, an individual paying that money. From 2000, 2022, UWA has given money around 56 billion shillings to communities. In all those years, you can imagine one individual being asked to pay 20 billion.
Wow.
It is terrible. It is a tough law. So government realized that we need these tough laws to support our work. So, and they gave us the laws. They also put in place the mechanism, the judicial mechanism. That's why we have this wildlife court where we go. But we have also sensitized the judiciary. We have also sensitized other law enforcement agencies about the importance of wildlife protection. And they are supportive and conscious. If they take you before a judge today or a magistrate, and maybe there is an exhibit, you killed the lion or what, this person, we used to have this mentality, surely a lion was important. So if someone killed a lion, so what? Now this person looks at the people who come to the country, He looks at the contribution of the tourism sector towards the national coffers, the GDP contribution. He looks at the jobs that are created because of tourism, the people who come to see this particular lion that this gentleman has killed, and you know what happens. So they are conscious of this, which was never the case. Yeah. And I can assure you, we are doing fine. If you look at our colleagues in NEMA, they are taking out people from the wetlands. And nobody is touching on them because they have a law that protects them. Okay? They are pulling down structures, illegal structures in wetlands. They have stopped a number of illegal activities in wetlands, unpalatable activities in wetlands. Yeah. It can be legal, yes. Maybe someone has a title in a wetland and say, yes, you have a title, but it is wrong. You're not supposed to own a wetland. Yeah. You know, so because they have enabling laws, and I think there we are doing fine. We just need to add in and create more awareness, because at the end of the day, the intention is not to arrest people or to evict people from protected areas and wetlands. No, but these people to realize that they are not supposed to go there. That's the direction we want to take. Yeah. Yes.
Wow, that's very nice. Now, do you want to take a break? And
no, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, so let's now touch on tourism development.
Yes.
Each time I'm out in the national park, I see quite a bit of development that is going on in terms of infrastructure, in terms of lodge properties coming up. But I also recently read that you signed an MOU with is it Giants Club for the management of one of your reserves?
Space for Giants and the Karamoja Wildlife Safaris. Yes, over Piadompe Wildlife Reserve.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with all this development that I see going on regarding tourism, I guess it's tourism centered.
Yes.
Conservation and tourism centered. Just help me understand how important is the development. I know the reserves, the national parks, all these protected areas are primarily first created to conserve.
Absolutely.
But what's the value of the tourism component to conservation?
Yeah. Two things. One, let me just refer to that particular collaborative agreement. Because we have a collaborative agreement. We didn't give it to them completely. We have a collaborative agreement. We are working with them and the community is there. Okay? Actually, initially it was UWA and the communities. But you see, our colleagues from Space for that, they have that expertise, or that they have built over time, and they are working closely with African parks. So, who have serious expertise, and you expect to see a lot of technology transfer, and you will expect to see a lot of transformation in terms of management of the reserve, Pianope. So, you see, the law that creates UWA creates the Wildlife Fund. And this Wildlife Fund is where UWA draws resources to do conservation work.
Okay.
The Wildlife Act of 2019 provides for the Wildlife Fund. And where do we get resources that go to the fund? These resources don't come from the consolidated fund of government.
Oh.
They don't come from the Ministry of Finance. The law says that you go, you have the Wildlife Fund, look for resources and put them in the fund.
And then you can.
And then you do conservation.
Wow.
So, we do not sit, unlike other government entities, we do not sit and wait for a quarterly release.
Yeah.
We have to look for the money to do conservation.
That means the COVID period hit you
big time.
Big time.
Big time. Actually, we reached a point where we could not pay salaries. So government said, okay, let us help you and pay salaries for you. But our colleagues were okay, the other entities. Well, they didn't have activities, but at least they weren't threatened by salary cuts or being laid off because of COVID. So, because of this, UWA had to be so creative and innovative. Can you bring partners who have resources? And once this place, they promote it, among others, they are supposed to promote the area and implement modern conservation management practices. Get me? Now, as they do this, they promote and get more tourists into the area. We get more resources. The people, as managers, of course, they also get the resources.
Yeah.
But for us, remember, resources is not the number one priority. Our number one priority is protection of the area,
Yeah.
ensuring that the animals there are safe. The wildlife is safe. So if you have a partner who can help us do that, we are good to go. Because we are created not to look for funds, but to conserve.
Yes.
In other words, and just the way I've given an example of COVID, that when we failed to pay salaries, government came in and paid the salaries. In other words, government, with or without us having money in the wildlife fund, government would look for the money for us to ensure that we conserve.
Conservation has to happen.
Conservation has to happen.
Yeah.
So for us, our number one consideration is conservation. The rest are supportive.
Okay.
Are support functions. So we have this partner. We strongly believe that the place is going to be improved in terms of management, and we are going to see the place more marketed so that tourists can go there and we get more resources from tourism. And the communities also get more resources from tourism.
Yeah.
You get me? It has also been proved that some of these private operators can be good in terms of community projects. You get me?
Yeah.
We have seen in some countries. We strongly believe that we will see a more improved relationship between the reserve and the communities.
The communities.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, I want to ask a bit of a personal question. With this whole work that you do, and every time I interface with rangers in the parks, you see this really commitment and dedication on their faces and even in their voices when they speak. And I'm triggered to find out, what do you enjoy most about the work that you guys do?
One,
Yeah.
the most thing that we enjoy is doing God's work. We feel we are contributing to the continuum of the human race. And I personally find that so gratifying. I've not started working in UWA. I started as a journalist, a reporter. I was just reporting a story on the Radio West, and then I went into petroleum. I was a spokesperson for the refinery project, and then I worked with the Global Sanitation Fund. I would be on the plane going to Geneva to present reports on the quarterly, But when I joined UWA, I think I discovered where I belong. I feel I'm making a contribution, a bigger contribution that many people don't see.
Yeah.
And because many people don't see, I know God is seeing, and God is going to reward us. So one, there's nothing gratifying like finding a lion with a snare laid by a poacher, and you treat it and it goes back to the wild.
And it gives you cubs.
Yes. And then when you see the cubs, you are like, oh God, what is this? God, you love us so much. So, finding an elephant with a young one, a calf, it is so satisfying. So the fact that we are interacting with nature most of the time, we feel that we are contributing to the continuum of the human race. And we know that if Jonathan, you don't want to come and say thank you, it is okay. God will thank us.
Yes.
That is so motivating us. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And you can almost guess my next question.
I don't know.
Are there any challenges or things you don't enjoy?
But Jonathan, in all this discussion, we've been talking about challenges. One, I talked about resources. I talked about the policy issues. We have people at a global level come down at national level, local level. There are challenges. One, inaction by the global leaders. They are very good at making commitments, but walking the talk of these commitments is not there. And will you be going to COP in Cairo?
No. I wish I was there to make some noise.
Yeah, I will not be there either. But if I get an opportunity to meet some of these global leaders, and I would like to meet them like in a room, the G7, and I tell them my mind, they would go back to their countries and start implementing.
Yes.
Trust me. So we have a challenge at that level. At local, of course, at national level, there isn't a lot of appreciation of conservation. So you literally have to keep reminding people We need to conserve, we need to conserve, we need to conserve. Because we are too selfish. We want to industrialize, people want to get money, people want to do cultivation, they want to encroach on protected area land, they don't care the impact. And because of these activities, now we have habitat loss, and then we have human-wildlife conflicts coming in. Currently, I can tell you, one of the biggest challenges that conservationists globally are grappling with is human-wildlife conflict.
Yes.
Because as you conserve, the numbers of animals increase. The size of the protected area remains the same. And even that particular size of the protected area is being encroached on.
The humans are also increasing.
Yes, the humans are also increasing. So there is this conflict over resources which are inadequate. We are saying we will conserve them. They are saying, how can you conserve for animals when humans are here? So there is that conflict.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the issue of funding is a big one that I don't know, but it remains a big issue. We have sung this song of inadequate funding over years. I do not see us getting a solution for now, but it is the other challenge that we are grappling with. And then I did talk about the issue of appreciation, yes, especially at policy level.
Yeah.
The appreciation is still minimal. It is still minimal. If you go, for example, here in Uganda here, we have a committee on tourism, trade and industry. But someone told me, no, it should be a committee on trade, tourism and industry. And then one member of parliament told me, actually, even that is wrong. I said, how should it be? He said, it should be a committee on trade, industry and tourism. Wow. You get me?
Yeah.
And because wildlife conservation is in tourism, so when someone releases resources for tourism, they believe they have released resources for wildlife conservation. This is not true. This is not true. These two are distinct. It is one sector, but we are playing different roles, although they are interdependent. You need to conserve, and then the other colleague, for example, colleagues from UTB, from Uganda Tourism Board, now they promote what we've conserved. You get it?
Yeah.
So I think that was that could have been the thinking of the framers of the sector, which I think was excellent. But resources are still a challenge, and the appreciation is not only at national level, but even at local level. We still have leaders who believe that some protected areas should be degazetted.
Sad.
And up to now, they are clamoring for degazetting. Some of them are important people in government. Some of them are local leaders, councillors, district chairpersons, not all of them. We have some who are super supportive, and we have some who are completely hostile towards wildlife conservation. So it is a big challenge. And when you have such a person who is respected by people, now, what do you expect from the communities that he addresses? Yes.
I'm sure he rallies them.
Because this is someone, they believe him, they like him, they love him, they want him as their leader, and they elected him.
They vote him for that reason.
Yes, they voted him to be, yes. You get me? Now, what do you expect when he comes and meets the communities adjacent to protected areas and addresses a rally? I don't want to guess what they will say, but your guess is as good as mine. You find a problem.
Yeah.
So support is still minimal, but we thank partners who have been working with us. During COVID year, I can tell you some partners brought food rations for our rangers.
Yeah. Wow.
During COVID year. You get me? So we hope to continue working, doing our job in spite of the challenges.
Yeah.
In spite of the inadequacies. We are committed to conserving for generations.
You're doing a good job despite the challenges.
Yes.
We appreciate. Now, I'd like to come home to your department. You are the communications manager of Uganda Wildlife Authority. There's this thing that has been disturbing me for a while. Of course, I know our negative effect on the environment has been very significant. But I feel like conservation communications are often like doom conservations. There's a lot of negatives that we hear. And I guess the fourth estate, we did talk about the media earlier. But the fourth estate, I guess, has also kind of influenced that, because even when they come to press conferences, I often hear them asking about the negative events as opposed to the positives. And I also know that, of course, being previously in tourism communication, I'm one of the few people that understand that it's not always easy to communicate the positives, especially for tourism and conservation, because our changes take a long time, as opposed to, let me say, if someone gave you 300 million to build a school, you'd say 300 million US dollars are here, here's your school, as opposed to conservation where environmental change takes a bit of time to happen. So in your docket, from a conservation communication point of view, what do you feel about the need to create or communicate more of the positives, however subtle or however small they may be? And as you hint on that, also just help me understand how these recent technologies, the social media, have helped you get the message out there.
One, conservation communication is not something that is known a lot in Uganda. Most people, it's tourism comms, promotion of attractions, documenting attractions. Conservation communication, here we are talking about interventions. If it is if it is invasive species, what is being done about it?
Yes.
You get me? If it is about ecological monitoring, what are the findings that you are seeing? What are the trends? You get me? Now, this is not something that might be so interesting to some readers even. You get me? One time I took a journalist to Chibale, and people, he was a TV journalist, there were 3, I think, and we covered we restored over 10 hectares, rather over 10,000 hectares in Chibale. That forest you see, it was restored by UWA, working with partners, and now we are selling carbon credit.
Oh, nice.
And generating resources that we plow back into conservation and also share with the communities. Now, when the story ran on TV stations, some people asked me, how did you interest these people to come and cover such a nice story?
Positive story.
I said, nice how? They said, you see, people want stories of a dead lion, people want stories of a poacher who has been shot and killed, maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
There is one thing I've noticed, and this I've learned it, of course, over time, that positive or negative is publicity.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You want to publicize conservation work. And here, the nature of my job is that at least on every week there's a crisis you handle. You never have a week where you are like, oh, now I'm doing office work. There is always a crisis. Either there's a problem animal that is in the communities, or communities have killed it and now police is hunting the killers, or there's a poacher who has been killed by an animal, or there's a poacher who was shooting at our rangers and they shot and killed him. On the week, there's something that comes. So you are always on your tenterhooks. You're like, now that I've managed this, there is a process you go through in crisis management. Now, as you do post-crisis evaluation, another one comes. another crisis comes. But conservation communication, one, requires a lot of reading. A lot of reading, I can tell you. If you bring someone from another entity and you put him where I am, even if you give him all the documents that we have in this institution, if this person doesn't have a culture of reading, it becomes very hard. It's not mere PR you do, which is closer to marketing.
Yes.
Here it takes understanding the issues and putting them in a way that is so simple for a layman to understand. Breaking science for a layman to understand
it well. A common man like me.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, because we have this desire for negativity, what I've done in my department, if there is something negative, I want them to know it. Because you see, it is also being accountable to the public and being open.
Yes.
I know that for a fact, if, for example, I say, let me hide the negatives and only focus on the positives, I have the ability to hide the negatives, I can tell you. But the day it gets out, I will lose credibility. I will not be credible anymore.
Yeah.
So the issue is that how does this negative reporting portray us as an institution? Are we portrayed as a failed entity? Are we portrayed as a victim? Okay? Most of the negative stories I've seen, actually, we are portrayed as victims. And to me, that's positive. Meaning, certain external forces that we cannot... For example, if you arrest someone with ivory at the border, does it mean that this ivory was from Ugandan elephants? The answer is no.
No.
So, we are victims. We are accused. But this person came with the ivory from another country.
They were just transiting.
Yes, and now once I know that we are portrayed as victims, I say, look, actually, these are the facts. We need credit because we are the ones who have arrested the person. First, appreciate that we are the ones who have arrested this person.
That's a win. That's a positive.
Yes, that's a positive. Now, me, I look at these negatives and turn them into positives. And in most cases, I've been successful at doing so because I do so with evidence. I do so with evidence. By and large, it is not a bed of roses. It is not a bed of roses, I can tell you. Especially now, in the era where we have what we call citizen journalism.
Yeah.
Everyone is a journalist out there.
Everyone has a media house in the pocket.
Yes. You have yours, I have mine, my brother has his, my mother has, everyone is a journalist out there. Yes. They have cameras, they have phones with cameras, they record the sound, they do everything. You get me? And therefore, what do? You have to be on top of your communication, be proactive. Don't allow them to control the narrative. Okay? If something happens, be proactive so that you are able to direct the narrative. If you don't do so, the volunteers are there out. They will help you to direct the narrative. Unfortunately, they may not take it in a direction that you want. You get me? Because they are accessing these things. Some of them actually take pictures of like an animal that has been caught in a snare. And they say, there's this animal. Have you seen it? And I notify our teams. You get me?
Yeah.
But why do they do so? Because I've also cultivated a relationship.
Yeah.
Instead of rushing, they know these things happen. They know we have poachers who come and lay traps. You get me? So, and once something happens, proactive. Let the public know. Those who want to condemn, they will condemn you. But when you explain, they say, okay. Because you can never control people's initial reactions.
That's true.
Initial reactions will never be controlled. That's why you see, people have never understood why. No, maybe some do. All press releases you will see, not from one UWA, any entity, they say for media inquiries or for inquiries, contact this. So that, yes, you are like, no, I need to call them and understand these things. I've not understood it. I need a good explanation. And then people get an explanation and they understand. So we are on top of our game. By the way, I didn't say that I'm a certified crisis management professional.
Oh.
Certified.
Wow.
Certified crisis management professional.
Perfect man for the job. Perfect man for a crisis job.
Yes, so we keep managing crises as they emerge and also pick our lessons from them. And when I pick lessons,
that's important.
I also take this back to management and I say, well, we had this, we managed it like this, but we could have done this to avert it. It's not a matter of negative stories happening all the time. The question is, what are they about? If it's a crisis, it's the same crisis all the time. What are you doing about it? And if there is no action that is being done to avoid such a crisis from happening again, it means the people who are something's wrong in the institution. Some people are wrongly placed where they are. And you need maybe some mop-up. So at least management listens, and when we say we think we could have done this, or next time let's do this, we also do even we do now crisis scenarios, and we say, can this happen? If this happens, how do we go about it? And what is the in our risk assessment? We also look at the likelihood of the risks occurring. If it's about an animal dying, and then we prepare accordingly.
Yes.
Okay? So we do our own risk assessment and see the potential of risks happening and see what we can do to ensure such risks do not happen. Yeah.
Okay, now just as we wind up, as we head to the end of the podcast, I'd like to know, are there any jobs, any opportunities in Uganda Wildlife Authority? Not only jobs, but also like opportunities for partnerships. Is it maybe for concessionaires, maybe for content creators like photographers, or maybe wildlife videographers that want to partner with you in putting your message out there? Are there any opportunities?
All these are opportunities that are available. Look at this podcast.
Yes.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much, by the way, for...
It is an opportunity, you know. So we work with all people. Content creators, they have opportunities to come and engage us. Journalists who want to cover conservation inside, because you see, to enter a park, you need to pay.
Yes.
So, but there are opportunities for them to come and go and get content without paying even a penny.
Oh.
Yes. We have opportunities for partnerships. In terms of, for example, people who want to undertake conservation activities, but they also need to work with a certain authority. And they come, especially those ones who want to work in communities. We partner and we help them.
Yeah.
Okay? They have resources, but they need more to do with connections in terms of government systems, and they come and work closely with them. Okay. We have opportunities for business. People who supply us drugs, people who supply us, people who do construction works in the parks, building accommodation facilities, all those opportunities, tenders. We have opportunities for investment. People want to invest inside the protected areas. They want to invest in accommodation facilities, small restaurants, you know. There are all these opportunities that are there. What is important is someone to reach out to us with a proposal. I propose to do the following. Maybe I want to build this facility in the Agile Wildlife Reserve. It will be a 20-bed facility, blah, blah, blah. You know, you give us all those details. All these opportunities that are there. We have opportunities for people of varied professions. When people hear of wildlife, they think everyone is a wildlife manager or something. No. We have accountants, we have auditors, we have people in teachers, social workers who do community work with the communities. Our word for community conservation. Teachers, communications people are there, the ones who engaging in the communities. Communications and public relations in my department. We have opportunity. We employ people who have done communication. In tourism, we employ marketeers, business development people. So varied procurement, you know. So we have varied disciplines that we recruit and employ for purposes of supporting conservation work. Okay. Conservation work doesn't happen in a vacuum. It needs support. And this support is offered by other professions. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, finally, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing some future prospects that you have as an entity, maybe 10 years, 25 years. You just celebrated 25 years, so it might be interesting to know what you have planned for the next 25 years.
One of the biggest things that we are looking at right now in the future is fighting invasives. They are a big thing. And going forward, we are taking it on as a project now.
Okay.
We are seriously hunting for people who can support us in the area of research. And actually, right now, even before we go into university, we have established a research fund. This is to help people like you, Benia. You can come up with a proposal and you say, I want research. But we have themes. Yeah. If you go on our website, you'll see these themes. You say, I want to research on this, and present a proposal, and we evaluate it. If we think it is worth it, we support you, we fund you, and you do research. Okay. Now, we want to add more resources to this research fund so that we are able to make management decisions that are based on research. So that is one. Two, we know that for the world to know what we are doing, we need to do more in terms of how we communicate. We want to establish a TV station.
That's nice.
Conservation TV, whatever one will call it, whether conservation TV, but most likely, but a TV station that focuses on conservation, not only inside the protected areas, but also the environment, wetlands, forests, all these, the water bodies. We want to establish a TV station. That is a dream.
Do you have an idea of how long, how soon?
As soon as we get resources, because right now we do not have even a coin for that. But it is something that management has adopted.
Okay.
So we don't have any funders. People have expressed interest in working with us on that project, but it is a project that we are taking forward, and we hope that probably in a few years to come, it will materialize. But we really, really, really want to have a TV station that we can use, not only to do conservation, but also promote tourism, Yes. So it will be doing more of sector work, but the core of it will be nature conservation. Because we think once people understand why we should conserve nature, I can assure you life will be so easy for us. This sun that hits, that almost wants to burn the scalp off our heads, will reduce. It's a matter of actions that reverse the negative effects of climate change. Yes, you get me?
Yes.
So the other thing that we are focusing on is to mitigate more on human-wildlife conflict. We are doing electric fencing. We have so far done 101 kilometers of electric fence.
That's in Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth and Maxwell.
Okay.
But we want to do another 61 kilometers in Queen Elizabeth, and want to do 101 kilometers in Maxwell Falls. But you see, whereas our intention is not to create big zoos, we want to ensure that areas that are known to be human-wildlife conflict hotspots, or problem animal hotspots, are fenced off, so that the communities can also cultivate their food and harvest it in peace. This is what we want.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. I know this discussion could have gone on and on.
Absolutely.
But, thank you so much for your audience and also for hosting us here at Uganda Wildlife Authority. But maybe let's just get your parting shots.
Yes.
And also as you do that, let us know how we can interact with your destinations, especially with the upcoming festive seasons. And then also maybe just let us know how people can keep tabs with UWA, a website or social media.
Actually, there's something I didn't mention, harnessing new technologies.
Yes, please.
We are cognizant of the fact that we can no longer only rely on conventional media. So we are harnessing new technologies, new media. We have a website, www.ugandawildlife.org. We have a Twitter handle at UG Wildlife. We have another supportive handle at Uganda Wildlife. We also have a Facebook page, Uganda Wildlife Authority. We are on YouTube. We are on Instagram. Now, all these, we are not there for fun. We are not there because others are there.
To slay, as the people say.
We are there because they are channels through which we can reach out to the world. They are channels through which we can promote these protected areas as tourism destinations. They are channels through which we can engage. Engagement is very important.
Yes.
The era of one-sided communication, where you just pump people with information, the way Hitler did in 1940 something, and then you pump people and then they believe in it. You can't do it around this time. People want to engage.
People want to ask the questions.
Yes, people want to ask questions. And what we are doing now is to ensure that we are able to keep these platforms engaging. We know that without using these platforms, we are doomed. A bigger population, young and old. These platforms are no longer for the young. No, young and old are there. It is therefore a matter of imperative on our side that we find them there where they are.
Yes.
With our message.
It's very good that you understand that.
Yes. Yeah. We have to find them where they are. They don't have to look for us. We find them where they are. We take our message.
Take your message.
Yes.
Okay. And festive season? Is there anything?
Right now, there are no promotions that we have. But, it turns out that our protected areas are cheap. For example, Ugandan pays 20,000 Uganda shillings to enter a park.
Only. A Ugandan will be surprised listening in. They will be surprised that it's only 20,000.
Yes, 20,000. A non-Ugandan will pay around $30. $30. Now, this is not a lot of money. And when you go to these parks, what you see is enormous. For example, can you imagine sometimes the people who come to these protected areas limit themselves. Do you know that you can come and say, for us, we want to do barbecue over the Kazinga channel? Oh, yes. You do barbecue with your team. You come and do barbecue on the boat over the channel. Yeah. You get me? And you have fun. The other day, I had my colleagues from the other forces, UPDF, police and prisons, and we said, they said, can we do barbecue? They said, is it possible? I said, watch me. So we did the barbecue over the Kazinga channel, and they were amazed. So it is usually fun, families. People should bring their children, and count, so that these most of the parents we have, especially here in Uganda, they will tell you that, you see, my children are going to the park, but the parent has never been there. Yes. You find someone talking about the country, but someone from Switzerland knows the country more than a Ugandan here. Because we don't tour our country. However, since COVID times, we have seen a big number of Ugandans, East Africans generally, visiting our protected areas. The number is over 50% of the visitors. So to me, this is very nice. But we want to move the foreigners as well, for obvious reasons. Yes. for obvious reasons. Yes. So the holidays will be waiting for everybody who is listening to this podcast. Yes. And those ones who listen later will be waiting for them during the holiday season. All our 10 national parks are open, very safe. We have enhanced our safety measures, by the way, to ensure that people who enter the protected areas do not encounter any scare. Enter in peace, do your activities in peace, go out in peace. So that when you reach home, you are able to say, I'm home. And then you give us that rating. Yes. Yeah. All right, Bashir, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and drop links to UWA's website in the podcast description. Please, we'll be happy to see you do that. Yes, if you're looking for that, please check in the description. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. And I trust you will be out there speaking up, not only speaking up, but also standing up for the wild and the natural world, definitely on what we all attain our survival. As Bashir mentioned, there's a lot we can do in our individual capacities, but also if we join hands to work together to protect, conserve this place, this planet we call home. Let's always remember that the more we see ourselves as part of nature, the more we are fundamentally connected to it. We should never see ourselves as separate, but rather as another species in a larger ecosystem of the natural world. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit the like button, share the link in your circles. And if you didn't enjoy it, it's a lot of democracy here. Feel free to hit the thumbs down. It's always useful feedback. For those that want more, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is available on all major streaming platforms. That's including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Republic, Pocket Casts, and I believe this particular episode will also run on YouTube. All right, I'll see you next time.